fresh food cooked at home is good for you, it's good for the family, it's good for sitting around a table. There's friends of ours can't believe that I sit at the table with my kids having breakfast or having lunch and having dinner. The whole idea of eating on the go, to me, is just all wrong. To me, food is all about talking to people. If it's dinner time, having a glass of wine, that to me is food's about. It really is, and that's how I was brought up.
That was the voice of Niall McKenna, chef and restaurant founder. And I'm Martin Nutty.
And I'm John Lee. Welcome to the first stop of the Irish Stew Gets Lost in Belfast Road Trip, recorded at Waterman House, Niall's restaurant and cooking school in the heart of Belfast's vibrant Cathedral Quarter.
And for me, this was my introduction to Belfast. We were just hot off the plane. I'd driven 90 miles out up from Dublin. It was a pleasure to sit down in Niall's restaurant, which is located on Hill Street, which is this beautiful cobblestone street in the middle of Belfast with lots of interesting bars and places to see.
And we want to thank Tourism Ireland for their support of our Belfast road trip and all their great efforts to promote the island of Ireland as a compelling holiday, vacation, and business events destination.
And so with that, let's talk to Niall about what it's like to run one of Belfast's great eateries. So welcome, Niall.
Thank you. Honor. Thank you so much. That's something very different here. So we're going to enjoy it. Let's get into it and let's talk about it. Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Let's start off with something very simple. Tell us about your Belfast roots. And I'll preface this by saying that this is actually my first visit to Belfast. I am a virgin, so to speak.
Life's only starting, and that's what I say. But Belfast is really, I'm a boy from West Belfast. I grew up in West Belfast virtually my whole life. Went to De La Salle, St. Anne's Primary School. De La Salle is a big boys' school. And that's where the culinary adventure started with Brother Dominic. It was the only school that actually did culinary for boys. And that's from a young age, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I went to that school, and it's just amazing how many publicans, restaurateurs, and hoteliers have actually come out of the school.
Yeah, interesting, because I saw a comment you were looking for like a school that had home economics. Is that essentially it?
That's exactly it, and right in the middle of Belfast, and during the dark times and all the rest of it. But the brother Dominic, brother Vincent, all the teachers were amazing. Great school, very tough school, but it was a brilliant school. And they just pushed you on, really pushed you on, and I got so much out of the school when I was there. And that's where it all started, really. That's at the very beginning, that's where it started. And then my mum had a outside catering firm and come from big families who all had to learn how to cook. And that was, we're always like socializing, hospitality. As soon as you came into the house, it was a cup of tea, it was food. And that's just our way. That's what it's about. And I think from a young age, it was the hospitality side that I loved more. And then went into the kitchen, started cooking. And it all comes back to hospitality, service, food. In that order, and really in that order, and that's what's my whole goal for the past 30 plus years.
So your guiding philosophy.
Yeah, it is. Keep it simple. Be nice.
Yeah.
And after you finished up school, you actually went on to study then, right?
Yeah, I went to culinary school in Belfast, and then at that point I worked in a place called Inn, which at that point there, it was just coming to the end of tableside service, which is now coming back into style. So it was a lot of flambe and pressed duck. We had all our own game came in. You were breaking your venison down. We had a plucking room for all our game. And those things you don't see anymore. And I didn't realise at the time, I thought it was a terrible job. And now I look back at it, I wouldn't have got my butchering skills. Colleges can't afford to do it now. Restaurants definitely can't afford to do it. So just at that point there in my career, I was very young. I was probably about 17 plus going to college. And then I went from there to a restaurant called Roscoff. And that was from a gentleman, Paul Rankin. And really, Paul Rankin to me was the one who really put a fire underneath me. He was like, in Ireland in those days, it was like Patrick Guilbeault, Kevin Thornton, and then in the north you had Paul Rankin. Paul Rankin was trained by the Roux brothers in London. His wife's Canadian. He lived in California quite a lot. So it's that whole purity of food. And this is like years ago, this is 40 years ago. And it was really the purity of food and all the connections of different cultures banging together. And I came back to Ireland, and then Paul got his Michelin star, and just people were coming from all over the UK to eat in it. And it was just full all the time. And it was the part of business, hospitality, standards, quality of product, quality of product. And to me, that's what it was all about. And he really drove it into me. And all the chefs, because the amount of chefs that actually came out of Paul Rankin's stable to open restaurants, I don't think it's been surpassed in Ireland. The amount of people have opened the restaurants. And he is one of these very generous with his time, his education, advice. You could take it on board or not. And if you didn't take it on board, you were a fool. So he is one of these guys. He is really the one in the north of Ireland, Northern Ireland, who started it. Nobody else. And he is just, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I am now. So to me, in my life, he's been one of the biggest changes without doubt.
So he's an innovator, clearly
100%.
in the space, at a time when, let's say, culinary and Ireland were not two words that were regularly mixed together.
It wasn't like it was two restaurants, like a Strand restaurant, Restaurant 44, didn't exist in the north. Didn't exist in Northern Ireland. Food didn't exist as such. And people turn around and say, no, Paul started it, without doubt. And then even down south, it was really coming together, but it was still very heavy. Everything was very reduced down. It was just like you were getting gout. It was so rich, the food. And then Paul just, I think it's the California thing, where it just lightened up.
Yeah.
Everything lightened up, flavors came out, everything exploded in your mouth. And to me, that's what it was about. And the standard chef, because we were all trained one way, and then Paul just sort of turned it on its head. Then the star came, and it was the first star in Northern Ireland. And that was it. Off we went. And it was just incredible. He did TV programs, he did this, all the usual bits what some chefs do. But at the end of the day, the key thing is, with Paul Rankin, is his knowledge. He's an incredibly intelligent chef. Like there's a program over here called Mastermind, which he won. So that says you won. And when you talk about food, he can go into such depth about food, where he's a total egghead. But at the same time, he's got a great personality. So as you hear me talking here now, I've got nothing but respect for the man. And anybody who knows him will have the same respect.
That comes across pretty well.
Yeah.
You spent some time in London?
Yeah, I worked over in London. So I went over to London, did all the Michelin, all the 1, 2 and 3 star, which was good. I enjoyed it to a degree. But at the end of the day, I always knew at one point in London, I sort of went, I wanted my own restaurant. So I was sort of trying to gear myself towards people who could run businesses, but at the same time keep the standards, which a lot of chefs are terrible at that. And then so I worked for a guy called Gary Rhodes, who's no longer with us. And okay, he was a TV chef, but besides that there, he was the most organised, didn't drop any standards. His restaurants were full lunch and dinner every day. The only difference between Christmas time and the middle of summer was 4 people. It was incredible. But the standards, the quality of product, and the commitment to not dropping your standards, that's what he drove into me, and the organisation. And he was like definitely a bit of OCD somewhere along the lines, but his organisation skills were incredible. And that's what I learned from him.
Because besides being like a brilliant chef, like just being alone and cooking some brilliant thing, you have to be consistent at scale.
Yeah.
And you have to, at the end of the day, the thing has to work out financially.
That's the two things. And you mean, like as long as you got your head, everybody laughs at me, but if you buy local, you buy from locally around you, it's better quality by far. It's the simplicity of the food on the plate is key as well. And that's the chef side of it. And then after that, you've got the business side of it. Because nobody really trains head chefs to be head chefs. They sort of learn it as they're going along, which is, I find a bit hard, like working GPs out, wage costs, all the rest of it. You sort of learn it on the job. To me, like within our restaurants, especially with our apprenticeship scheme, I try to bring it on earlier from a chef to party. They start then signing in dockets, understanding, what's the price of a lemon? What's the price of an apple? What's the price of this, that, there? You ask the questions. So to me, within our business, I'm trying to make another haunch of head chefs. And that to me is exciting. The training part of me in my business is exciting, where I train chefs. And I asked Paul the same question I asked Gary. They're the same type of person. They enjoy training people to make them the next generation, and that gives them pride. And he says there's only certain, like a lot of chefs are a bit paranoid and all the rest of it, but to me that is an amazing and a very generous thing to do. And it doesn't always happen in the industry.
It seems like it's so much better of a career path, or a much more viable career path. There's much more opportunities than there had been. And
totally changed.
What role is it playing in a revived Belfast?
To me, the industry's totally changed, and it sort of started changing probably about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and then COVID came along, and that sort of turned it. Probably one of the benefits of COVID, if there's any benefits, was that it made everybody look at the way they were working. It looked how cost effective it was, how good it was for the staff. And so like our guys do a 4-day week, They do their hours, the basic hours. They get set hours. They get set with their salary and all the rest of it. So they're getting a quality of life outside work. Our turnover of staff is nowhere near what it used to be. And saying that our turnover within our company, we have people within our industry staying for 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 years, which in our industry is a long time. So our whole team now at the moment is very, very young because we're training them through the apprenticeship scheme. Like my head chef here now at the moment is Aaron, and he's my first apprentice. My number 2 over in James Street is Dylan, who's my second apprentice. So they're now changing, and they're very young, only 20, 25, 26, but they've been cooking since they were 16, but properly cooking, not put on the back. They learn how to make bread, souffle, filling, proper cooking. And to me, that's the only way as a business we can survive is by training properly. So there's no wastage, they understand wastage, by costing up and putting 3% wastage on top of your costs. And these things, so this is the next generation. So by doing that, and that type of chef is worth its weight in gold. You can be as creative as you want, but if you can't run a kitchen, it's pointless. So you have to be creative plus a business person of some description.
So talk to me about retention, right? So you've got these 2 wonderful young men now heading up both your operations as head chef. What's your expectation there, that they will stay permanently, and how do you keep them incentivized, or do you expect them to leave and do their own thing?
Being realistic, I expect everybody to leave because it's not, you get to the point where, like Aaron's left me, went to Australia, came back. To me, it's good to leave. It's good to travel. It's good to go to America. It's good to go into France. And like, you look at Europe, the same size as Texas. Europe is very, very small, but you've got so much going on, and it's only a plane right away. So our guys are constantly traveling around Europe. So they'll get 3 days off on their way to Copenhagen, their way to Barcelona, and it's just the norm. Drop in a flight, cheap flight, off they go, and all they do is eat. So to me, you're making foodies. And to me, if somebody leaves for the right reasons, I haven't got a problem. Because if you look after them, they will come back and they will bring something back to you. If they decide to open their own restaurants, I think since we've opened James Street up, there's so many restaurants have opened from people who've trained for us. Like Gareth McCarthy has Muddler's Club. Gareth was with me for about 8 years, and he opened Muddler's Club and got a star. And then Stevie opened Ox. He was with me for 10 years, and he left me and opened up Ox. 2 amazing restaurants, 2 of the best restaurants in Belfast. Definitely Michelin. That's not the angle I want to go to. I like a solid business, but that's their thing, but great chefs. So to me, I take a lot of pride in that there, where they were with me at that time from really a comedy chef de party up to being realistic head chef and then opening their own business. So to me, we've done something right in our training as a team, and that's the way I look at it.
So speaking of travel, you spent, as you said earlier, about 10 or 12 years in London.
Yeah.
How did that change your view of home, of Belfast?
Being realistic, I'm sort of contradicting myself here. I'm a real one for travelling, but the industry used to be you have to go to France, you have to go to London, that's what you have to do. See now, the industry's really changed because there's so many pockets throughout Ireland, throughout the UK and the world where you can just go, you can go to and you can get trained up. You don't have to go to the big cities and go to that expense and that pressure. So to me, there's a lot of kids now within Belfast and within Ireland, you've got some amazing restaurants, but they're all different. So you're always learning different techniques from different chefs who've travelled. And if you want to travel far enough, there's a few chefs work for me who are totally homebirds, which I'm fine with, that's brilliant, but they've all got their different skills. So to me, that's where the industry and the individual, but you have to then know your staff, know what they want, because there's no point in pushing somebody into a job but you know what they're going to fail at. So everybody with their strengths, you have to know their strengths. And it's also the personalities, have to get a bit of crack, bit of banter about them. You know, that to me, that's what it's all about. So it's about individual. Are they great in a team? Can they build a team? Can they get people around them? So to me, that's where we are within our industry now. And it's knowing the individual. That's the key thing.
We found out just before we got on that I've had your food a couple of times at a restaurant that no longer is up and running, Hadskis, and really enjoyed it. But I want to take you into the Waterman restaurant here. And I'm sitting down and I'm looking at your menu now. And I call you to come out and explain. I see a few dishes that look interesting to me. Maybe you could tell me about them. So I was looking at the house-cured pork belly and pickle.
Once again, local pork, which we smoke ourselves. So we've got our own smoking room. We do cold smoking, we do hot smoking within the restaurant, so we do that ourselves. But to me, it's trying to use everything up and trying to train the guys as different techniques from throughout Europe. And that's what we do within the restaurant, because like within here, we make everything ourselves. We make our own bread, we make everything.
What am I tasting here? What's the
To me, it's the smokiness. That's what you think of like You think in America, you go to Texas and you get the old Texas bar. That's what you're going to learn. So it's just slow cooked. It's cured for 3 days, and then we take it out. Then we get the green egg out, and we warm smoke it on the green egg. So that's what the guys do here. So it's very, very simple. Thinly sliced, put on a side of pickles. You get the acidity, you've got the pork, you've got the smokiness of it. So to me, the whole combination comes together. And once again, the food within Waterman is unbelievably simple. It is so simple. Everybody looks at it, and to me, the simplicity is the hard part.
You say no frills dining experience.
No frill dines, but to put it on the plate really cleanly, or whatever you're putting on the plate, no smudges. It is on the plate. You've nowhere to hide. There's no dots. There's no crumbs. If it doesn't taste good, it's rubbish. So to me, that's what food's about. The food is nice as possible, but after the first 3 seconds, the visual's gone, which is important, but it's all about the flavour and the quality of the product.
Well, that was my appetizer. So for the main course, I think I'd like to try the ox cheek, saffron risotto, and red wine juice.
Yeah, it's a very rich dish coming into autumn. We used to do it with the actual ox cheek, where we slow cooked it, and then we slice it down, and then we sous vide it down, and then we put it back into the water bath with the juice. It was very, very rich. And then I go to Italy every year, sometimes twice a year, and I just love risotto. So the risotto done perfectly is an amazing product. Done badly, it's like boiled rice. so to me, it's one of those things. Simple food done really, really well is incredible.
My wife's from the area of Italy where they grow the rice, right near that area. And then finally, like for dessert, there was a dish when I was a kid that I didn't know what it was, but to me it was the ultimate in luxury, not even knowing what it was, baked Alaska. And you have a mixed berry baked Alaska.
To me, it's coming to the end of the berry season now, but it's one of those desserts where you actually you hate because it's been on the menu that long, and every chef rolls his eyes and goes, God, can I take this off the menu? But as I say to all our chefs, everybody loves it. It's just one of our signature dishes. You cannot take it off. Customers you get emails in, and even more to the point, most people don't eat dessert. So this is our big seller. So this is what pays the chef. I says, this one dessert pays for a chef's wage. That's the way you look at it. So you have to educate them about that side of it and says, pick your battles, and this is the one you're going to lose because Joe Public will win. So it is one of those dishes you just turn around, it's for one person or for two. But when you see a couple sitting there and their spoons are in and they're handing the spoon over to each other, you just see them just going into it. And it's one of those really dishes, just dreamy dishes, just eat away and it's great. And once again, there's no cholesterol or calories in it.
Of course not. None of my order here.
It's pure sugar.
I went a little heavy, I have to say.
But it's the time of year, so it's a perfect dish this time of year.
It's brisk, cold weather.
So speaking about what's going on those plates, you mentioned earlier the importance of local. So how local is everything on the plates? Is it viable? Like I think of food grown in Northern Ireland, right? The kind of vegetables you can grow, but you can't grow exotic fruits. Well, you can under glass, but they don't taste good, right?
Being rustic, you mean you don't put them on your menu. That's it. We don't put them on the menu. If they aren't growing here, the only way we can survive, and like what do we get in? We get our olive oil, we get our arborio rice in, we got our 00 flour coming in from Italy. We also do a T55 flour, which is local. So to me, other than chocolate, olive oil and saffron and spices, we've got like picked organics and Newton Ards, picked those are veg for whatever's in season. And it's not that you're getting a phone call and saying, I've got this, this, and this. He just delivers it, and you have to make something out of it. It's the way I've been trained. Everybody's got this thing about local. If you do not do local, you're getting great quality product on your doorstep. It's picked in the morning or picked the day before and straight to you. So to me, it's just how we've been trained, and it's in part of our DNA. And it's the same throughout Europe, really is it. But as soon as you start going into the cities and it has to start traveling, it's just getting older, the quality's going away. And to me, that's what it's about. Because being realistic, 1.5 miles from here, you're at the sea. Ireland is a very, very small place. And our product comes from throughout Ireland. Our meat comes from Peter Hannon's, from the Sturgeon meat in Fermanagh. Our fish comes from Ewing's. I go down myself personally to pick my own lobsters up, to bring them up, purely because, that's a wonderful thing to do. No, the reason why I do that there is because I'm saving myself £100. And it's only down the road half an hour. Plus I get to see the quality of the product. And that's what we do. So to me, it's just a no-brainer. It's quality, it's business, it's smart, it's educational. Why not?
As a chef, are there things that are fun to cook or things that you just sort of dread cooking?
To me, you start out at the end product. The end product is the flavour. And if something tastes good, Of course it's going to be enjoyable to make, but there's certain dishes you turn around with are a bit tricky, could be humidity or whatever it may be in the kitchen.
Right.
But that's part of it, just get on with it. But to me, it's about the end product. And there's some things we do in the restaurant that take a lot of effort. But at the end product, you think, oh, it's not so good. And that's what it's about. So it's keeping it simple.
Did you ever have a dish that you had high hopes for and either didn't work out the way you thought or people just didn't go for it?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Being realistic, there's certain dishes you do very classical combinations. And within our restaurants, there are different styles of restaurants, but there's a perimeter of food that I want. And within this perimeter, the chefs can, like Aaron and Cahill, can go for it. But these are the perimeters, these are the styles we keep on. And as things come in, like John Dory, or we'll get a phone call, we'll get turbot or halibut, or Queenie scallops or scallops coming in. A scallop with a Café de Paris butter or a Dulce seaweed butter or whatever it may be. Off you go. Unbelievably simple dishes. Using a compound butter, brilliant. But at the end of it, it tastes amazing. That to me is what it's all about. Where people it's all about the flavour.
You talked about the apprentice program, which is really interesting because the idea of apprenticeship maybe is coming back a little bit, seems so valuable, but also here you have a cooking school.
Yep.
That's a great additional attraction. Tell us a bit about that.
We started the cookery school in James Street 11 years ago. And it was just one of those ones we started up. And they were doing a lot of films in Belfast and it was a Game of Thrones. And then all of a sudden we started getting the young actors. Now it started up very small. And they were in the kitchen, and then they were in the cookery school. The cookery started off with 10 people, then up to 12. And it was a Saturday morning, a Thursday night. It was just people coming in, learning how to cook. And then we got the site on Waterman, and the whole vision was to make it bigger and better. So Hadskis opened, we got this site. And then Claire came on board, who was down in Ballymaloo. And Claire came in, and the two of us set the cookery school up. And now it's going 5 days a week. And it's about 56 different classes in it, so from all around the world. And to me, it's one of these things where it's just, it's educational. You're teaching people about product. It's not about going out and eating just Chinese and just bad and the cholesterol, and just fresh food cooked at home is good for you. It's good for the family. It's good for sitting around a table. To me, there's friends of ours can't believe that I sit at the table with my kids having breakfast or having lunch and having dinner. The whole idea of eating on the go, to me, is just all wrong. To me, food is all about talking to people. It's if it's dinner time, it's having a glass of wine. That to me, what food's about. It really is, and that's how I was brought up.
You're running James Street, I think that's been around for about 20 years, correct?
20 years.
Talk about the challenge of managing multiple locations. How does that fit?
I started off with James Street, and then, as I said, we had linen on the table. It was all contemporary Irish art. It was in a beautiful room. It was absolutely a beautiful room, very simple. People were coming up from Dublin and Cork just to see the art in the room. And then with linen tables, really crisp linen tables, Rydell glasses, everything everybody touches quality, and everybody says, oh, it's fine dining to me. It's not really. The reason I've got linen on tables is because I couldn't afford decent tabletops. That's the reason I had linen on tables, and it sort of stuck. And then all of a sudden, we're working away, and I got into the kitchen, and all I wanted to do was cook. And then year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. And at this point, it was really, and our business was going really, really well. And we're flying, but at that point, I didn't really think about expanding. And then all of a sudden, the recession came in and hit the worldwide. And then I turned around and says, Joanne, private dining, this type of thing here, fine dining, it's going to die. We have to expand. So right next door to James Street, a building came up. And they said, we're going to open a bar and grill. More like a French brasserie, American steakhouse. Really good quality meat, fish, everything on the bone, everything made in house. Type of food that people want to eat, with a big window. We're rolling out pastas, and people are walking past seeing us doing butchery. More of an educational thing, as people look at that and just stand shoot it. 20 people stand in front of the chefs, seeing them prep, and it made them feel uncomfortable. But I says, guys, this is the skill. This is Joe Public. You have to learn how to talk to them and all the rest of it. And then we opened the bar and grill up, and then all of a sudden, it absolutely flew. So all our customers who were in James Street moved over to the bar and grill, spent exactly the same amount of money, but it was all about perception. We kept James Street going, tasting menus, all the rest of it. It was doing okay. It never really massive amount. It never came back to where it was. Then there was a part of Belfast called the Cathedral Quarter, and I walked around the Cathedral Quarter and went, I like this area here. And then there was a place called Printers Cafe, And I sort of very cheekily walked in and said, do you fancy selling your business? And it just so happens, as everybody in Belfast knows each other, the girl who owned it was a neighbour of my wife. And I went, all right, dead on. And he says, actually, we're about to retire. Brilliant. So then we opened up Hadskis, and Hadskis was named, it's a place called Commercial Court, right beside the Duke of York Bar, the Heart Bar, the OES Centre, and it's sort of the hub of the creative hub of Belfast for music, dance, all the rest of it. And I just loved the area. It was very wild. It wasn't polished. It was great. Very, very different to James Street. And then we opened up Hadskis, which is named after a guy called Stuart Hadskis. And it was an old Irish Jewish name. And he made pots and pans. Oh. And then there's no Hadskis left in Ireland. They all went off to America. So very, very interesting. And then we opened down in the Titanic area. We opened like an all-day diner called Cast and Crew. And there we then had all the film crews coming in, opened very early, we're feeding them, and it was really good. So I had all these multiples going on. And at one point, I had about 130 staff, 130 in the team, called everybody handsome and darling because I could remember their names. And it was just one of those things where it seemed to be easy to do, but looking back now, coming back to COVID again, you're busy, but you're a busy fool not making money. So we're open 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. All we were doing is paying wages and paying taxes, but at the end of the day, we weren't making a massive amount of money because we were just working and working and working. We thought this is great. And then during COVID, to give us time to look at actually the pounds, shillings and pence, to where the business is, to how many hours our staff are working, what we're getting out of it, and what's the cost of it. So really, we sort of looked at our model and gave us time to breathe, to look at our model, and we contracted the company. So especially with James Street and the Bar and Grill, we merged the two together. So we had two teams of two different skills, merged them together, which was very difficult to do because they were all butting off each other. And as we all know, chefs are a bit temperamental and big children. So that was managing that there was difficult, but that was part of it. And then we were just flying along, and then COVID came, and we did the box scheme from a Hadskis, which was incredible for us. So we were just cooking down. People were coming and picking their boxes up and bringing them home and cooking them at home. And we were doing online podcasts, no videos and stuff like that there to show how to cook it. So we launched and looked at ourselves, how we're managing people, how we're talking to people, how we're developing the staff on. We've got a business coach on and development coach for the staff on, a girl called Siobhan who works with us for years now, and she does one-to-one with staff and team training to get the most out of the young ones. So if I see a member of staff, I think they could be good in the future. Not with me or somebody else. Let's train them up. Let's get inside their head. So to me, it's back to that educational thing. And to me, we could save a lot of money not doing it and put it in our pockets. But to me, that's not what it's all about. We're personally educating and spending our own money to develop our staff on. Good for our business, but even more to the point, it's good for them.
Now, could you put the growth of your restaurant business going back to when you first opened a restaurant here and other restaurants emerging here in Belfast, which now has a very lively foodie scene. Yeah. Can you put that up against what was going on in Belfast at the time in terms of how much were you the beneficiary of the peace process? How much were you, in a way, the driver of creating a more common space where people could enjoy themselves? And
to me, it's once again, it all started in Roscoff and it came its way through a gentleman called Michael Dean. There was Nick from Nick's Warehouse. So within Belfast, round about that time, there's all different restaurants going on. And some restaurants got the lawyers in, some restaurants got the older businessman in, other restaurants. With James Street, it was more of a younger 35 to 50 age bracket, business person, all the rest of it, arty-farties, actors. So it's a real, a mixture of, I always says, what would it be like? He says, you look at the crowd goes in the Grand Marché Tavern in New York, young, all the rest of it, but focused. And that was definitely our restaurant. But over Belfast, to me, everything changed. Really, as soon as peace came, it was just an explosion. Like, when I first came back here, and we were pushing to get, a couple of years after, probably about 10 years after we opened up, we were opening the Bar and Grill, and it was the MTV Awards were in Belfast. Oh. And that was without doubt, by far, we were giving our builders extra money to get open for this time. We need to be open because everybody's going to be in Belfast. And to me, in the past 21 years, there's nothing has had a more positive effect to the people in Belfast, not just the people coming to Belfast, the people in Belfast where they had pride. Because one thing we're really, really good at is we're very good at telling everybody, being positive to the strangers or people coming into the country, but ourselves, we're the worst people in the world. Because no matter what we do is not good enough. And we don't tell everybody how good we are, the quality of our product. You mean, we're great talkers, great communicators, but with ourselves, we're terrible, and to me now it's really totally changed. It's changed 10 years ago. Now with my kids, they know nothing about the Troubles. They don't need to know about the Troubles. And that's one of the reasons I left Belfast, because of the Troubles. I wanted to go over to England and just get away from it. But to me, it's totally changed. And once again, it's with the councils, the government bodies have to relax a bit and let the private sector, let us get on with it. Let's get on with our jobs, because a lot of taxes, a lot of things holding us back, holding the industry back. And within time, hopefully it'll change. But the people who can hear this here will know what I'm talking about,
So we're getting to that point where introduce a character into our podcast episode, which we call Seamus Plug.
Yep.
I understand there is a book. Obviously,
Yep.
We've talked about the restaurant, we've talked about the culinary school. So
You got a lot going on.
What are we plugging today?
Being realistic, it's once again getting back to James Street and our private dining rooms in James Street. And we have a private dining room in James Street. And I realise this is really good for us because it gives us an opportunity to introduce the business to different people coming into Belfast. Golf tours, America, there's nothing better. See when the Asian and Americans come to Belfast, you have 60-year-old men getting on like children, which is absolutely brilliant. They come over here, they're totally relaxed, they work hard, and they're over here to enjoy themselves. And they know, the thing I love about it is they know exactly what they want. So they're direct, they're no messing, I want this, 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 and this. And that is your perfect customer. See if you get a customer who doesn't know what they want, it's hard work. So within Belfast, opening up Waterman House, which is a restaurant, there's a clothes shop at the front, the boys in the bureau who are massive internationally. Then you've got our private dining rooms, we've got a small cinema, we've got the wee room, we've got the big room, and that was named by the builders. We just kept the name, and we didn't try to be smart about it. It's an old Bushmill bonded warehouse. So we've got that connection of the whiskey. You've got our neighbours, the Duke of York, the Friend in Hand, which is, have you been in the Friend in Hand yet? It is the best whiskey shop in the world. It has got the biggest collection of Irish whiskey in the world, private. It will blow your brains out. And the gentleman who owns that is a gentleman called Willie Jack. And he, to me, is Mr. Belfast. He is the beginning, the end, and everything of Belfast. And everything he does is about promoting Belfast. So that happened. And then we've got the event space, we've got the cookery school, we've got the restaurants. So what I'm trying to do is cover myself with as many different aspects of the industry which will make me money and make me a solid business. And once again, it's different skills within the business. So we then can train our staff to do different things. And with the cookery school is the part that I love the most. So from cruise ships coming in, fan trips coming in, golfers coming in, and they want to do whiskey tastings, they want to eat some meat or whatever it may be, protein, whatever they want. We said, what do you want? We'll do it. And to me, it's not saying no. And to me, that is what Waterman's about and James Street. I love a challenge. I love when people come in and you get a phone call, we've got 30 people coming in, when they're going to be here? Oh, they're here in an hour and a half. I said, let's go. To me, that is what's about. And to me, it's people coming into here and making Belfast, making Ireland look amazing. And to me, that's what's about.
I hear a lot of experiences are going into 140 recipes, 20 years, 5 restaurants, and 1 question. What am I referring to there?
What's it all about? And to me, it's about the forward that Paul Rankin done. To me, it's about the question of Belfast. To me, it's a question of food. It's a question of the people you work with. And to me, what it's all about. And that's
your cookbook.
That's the cookbook. And we took it after 20 years, and it's one of them projects we asked about 60 of our best customers who've been coming to us for years, give me your 10 dishes you remember. And that's purely that's how the recipes came about. Plus the recipes you have to be capable of making them at home. So we deliberately did a white book on the outside, so I can look at it and say, oh, you haven't been using that there, because it should smudge. We wanted the book totally made in Ireland. Birds printed it in Antrim, and then I went down to Dublin and they bound it and put it together. And to me, that's what I wanted. It was probably the least cost-effective way of making a book. But to me, it's about, I want it made in Ireland. So you've got the pictures of Sleep Donard, you've got pictures all around Belfast, you've got pictures of the book. A girl called Tara Fisher did the photographical work, and she's an English photographer. and she would do Jamie Oliver, Gordon, she would do a lot of the chefs' cookbooks. But the thing I loved about it is it was all done in natural light, one take, no doctoring. So what went on the plate is how it was done. And to me, that says everything. It's a natural way of cooking.
Wasn't that sort of food porn?
No. But at the same time, everybody looked at it and says, nobody believes me, we did it at one take. And I says, we've got the photograph, before and after, and the time. We've got a time frame there. So everybody questioned me, well, there's a time frame. And that's how we done it. And I was cooking, it was just myself and Tara. Now, normally when she did these things for cookbooks, there's like 10, 15 people. And I just, Tara, it's just me and you. And I never met her before, and we both kicked off. We just drank tea all day. And as it got late, we went into the coffee, and I got later went into the wine. So to me, it was just amazing, and an amazing lady, and very, very talented. And with a company called Thought Collective, who Mark pulled it all together, and Mike helped me out to make my ramblings into coherent messages and proof it. And as everybody says, you're never going to do a cookbook where you don't find a mistake. Within 2 days, we were getting the readers of the Irish News turn around and says, just let you know, one of your recipes is wrong. The egg yolk's in the recipe, but not in the method. And I'm going, and it's just wee silly things like that there. Yeah. And I said to a friend of mine who's brought out a lot of cookbooks in England, and I turned around and said, do you get many? He says, my last cookbook, who's been proofed it's made by one of the top cookbook companies in the world. He says, now there was 11 mistakes in it. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, this is from a paragraph to a dot being in the wrong place. It's silly things that are a bit of OCD, chef see, where it's just not 100%, but it is part of it, and they're selling very well. They're going to go on Amazon. People come into the restaurant. Right. We're doing cookery schools with dishes in the book, and then we're doing corporate classes as well with dishes from the book as well.
Fantastic.
But they're easy recipes.
We could cook them.
Most of them. Now, I do lie. There's 3 or 4 recipes.
You have to separate an egg. That's where I always stop.
There is certain recipes you turn around, especially from the Great British Menu, which I know you're not going to do. But to me, they're just dishes what made our business. Yeah. So, like one dessert filled our restaurant. Like there's a dish in it called ice cream and jelly, and people just came to our restaurant for that one dessert, and it's filled the restaurant. So, you love and hate the dessert, but it was very good for us.
So, with that, and we'll be sure to include all the details in the book and this wonderful business in the heart of Belfast.
Yeah. Sounds like 12, 15 businesses at once.
There's a lot going on, but to me, that's where the industry's changed. You look at Danny Meyer in New York, the greatest restaurateur in the world. This guy, he's just a genius. And if anybody's never read his book, they're amazing. But the podcast is better because you can actually hear the tone of his voice. Yeah. The actual written word's brilliant, but when you hear somebody's voice and the tone, to me it's a different story again. So to me, we're very, very lucky. Belfast is on another journey. It's only starting, but we're on our way. We're definitely on our way. Food-wise, hospitality, great pubs, everything's here.
So, on behalf of myself and John and our listeners, we'd like to thank Niall McKenna for taking the time out of his busy day on a wonderful sunny morning in Belfast. It's been a total pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Getting an insight into an extraordinarily dynamic business. And we're looking forward to hitting the restaurant.
All right, thank you very much. And it's all about Irish too. Keep it going.
Gormagat.
Yeah, Martin, there's a lot of ways to slow down and get immersed in a destination, and we certainly found a great place to start. The vibrant Cathedral Quarter, Chef Niall McKenna. He really opens the doors to us on Belfast hospitality and his new world of authentic, unfussy, locally sourced food.
Yeah, the place was eye-opening to me, and I think unfussy is a word that jumped to mind. Niall makes every ingredient sing. And a couple of nights later, we had the pleasure of actually sitting down in the restaurant and having one of the best meals I've ever had. And what I can say is a lot of restaurants you go to, some stuff is great, some stuff is mediocre, some stuff is bad. Well, I didn't have a bad bite or a mediocre bite. It was outstanding. And a couple of other things to call out, obviously, is Niall's book, What's It All About? It's a beautiful book, beautifully illustrated for those that fancy themselves in front of a stove. Strongly recommend that. And finally, on December 31st, Niall won an OBE, Order of the British Empire, and an OBE celebrates people that make serious contributions to the country or the region. I can't imagine a more worthy winner.
And we thank Niall and his team for getting our trip off on a great start, and appreciated the meal at Waterman House and also the support of Tourism Ireland. To learn more about Tourism Ireland, go to their website, tourismireland.com, and their tourism-oriented sites, ireland.com, discoverireland.ie, and discovernorthernireland.com.
Irish Stew is produced by John Lee, Martin Nutty, and Bill Schultz. Editing, mixing, and mastering by Bill Schultz. Music on Irish Stew was composed and performed by Rosa Nutty, with Donald Bowens on drums, Cathal O'Riordan on bass and synthesizer. For more on Rosa Nutty's music, please visit rosanutty.com.